It was a pizza chain called the Pizza Ranch.
Huh. 16 of them.
Yep, for better or worse.
Where at?
They were all in Iowa. I'm from Cedar Falls, Iowa, so they were towns surrounding Cedar Falls, and then towns surrounding.
Wow. That's a lot.
The most I had at one time was 10. I had kind of a model where I put a partner in business, and then they bought me out. Sold a few to my brother, but I wasn't. I was a better deal maker than I was a restaurateur. I really didn't really enjoy the restaurateur part.
Yeah, car business has got to be more fun.
Um, it. This is a lot of fun. What we do. It's much harder, uh, but it's way more fun.
Less 12-year-old birthday parties.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
have you
I
guys
can
always
even
hosted
imagine.
the show together?
Sorry?
Have you guys always hosted the show together?
No. Uh, Jeff started this with another guy. How many years before? I think I got in 2018.
Yeah, this sounds about right. Yeah. It's hard to believe it's been, what, 6, 7 years? God.
Well, you and Ryan had it going how many years before that?
I think it was like 2 years, maybe. Maybe longer.
Well,
Yeah, probably about 2 years.
it's that is a good accomplishment. It's hard to put something in motion and keep it in motion.
Yeah. And then you get tired of doing it or burn out of it for a while. So, but we take our time also. Yeah, it is. You're right. It's the hardest part. Is just being consistent.
It's like the whole key to everything in life. Because if you
It
figure
really is.
most of the time you're going to lose anyway. I so talk about those pizza places. I actually just reviewed this lately, and I know we're almost up against it. Only 2 of the 16 pizza places did I beat the projection I gave the bank. I didn't have any losers, thank goodness, but I was over optimistic. 14, 14 losses, 2 wins.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I don't know anything about the pizza business. I know I like pizza. Of
Yeah.
course, who doesn't?
Well, we are fully live now, fellas.
Wow.
So, what have we learned so far about Scott? He used to be in the pizza business.
What happened to the intro sound?
Well, it didn't play. So I'm so sorry, Jeff.
No skin off my back.
Jeff hates the intro.
Yeah, that's okay. If you're counting on me singing, then you're going to be disappointed in its place.
Yeah, I could say the same. Last thing you want to hear is my lack of singing voice.
Yeah.
Good. I wish I
What do you
could.
say? Got a face for radio and a voice for newspaper?
Voice for TV. Or was it? Yeah, something like that.
Back in the day. Back in the day.
Yeah.
The real traditional medias. So, Scott, 16 pizza franchises.
Yeah, yeah. When I was in high school, I washed dishes, turned my paycheck over to my dad. I detasseled in the summer, all those things, and I had about $15,000 saved for college. And my dad's business took off. He paid for my college, which was very generous of him. And I had that $15,000, and my dad co-signed for a small note, and I bought a Godfather's Pizza in Decorah, Iowa, and switched it to a small chain in Iowa called the Pizza Ranch, and I opened 16 of them. So accidentally got in the software business because of it.
Oh, you got to explain that now.
Yeah,
Um,
really.
so uh, I was really, really disappointed with how much my managers were doing for the marketing for the stores. And I hired someone to run the marketing for our stores, uh, kids club, database stuff, fundraising, those things, the normal things that a restaurant will do. And pretty soon I'm doing it for this whole pizza chain and the 200 stores. And then I had a local friend in Cedar Falls. They own dealerships in Iowa, and they wanted me to do service retention marketing for them. And pretty soon I'm doing it in 80 Midwest auto dealerships. And this was in 2002, and operated that company till 2015.
Hmm.
Nice.
So what brought Volley on?
Um, so we sold Driving Loyalty. It was formerly Bulldog Marketing, and sold it to Team Velocity. We renamed it Driving Loyalty. We sold it to Team Velocity. It was actually the original customer portal for Apollo. And um, it was an equity mining marketing platform, and we had a portal that the dealers could see who we'd sent marketing to, and they were always like, you know, Alex, I want to call this person. And we'd be like, that's great, call them. And they'd say, well, where do we start? And we're like, well, I don't know, maybe we should start here. And they're like, how do we know where we've been? And we're like, well, you don't. And we just looked at this and saw that there was a need to put a little more professionalism into communications and in the dealership. And we started in BDCs because you know traditionally dealers work off of click to call in their CRM, or desk phones, or a VoIP phone with printed lists. And I'd like to tell you that we were some business genius. We did not know how we were going to go to market when we launched this in 2017. We just kind of iterated into it. So
Wow.
I think that's how most companies go to market.
yeah, fortunately, we were able to make good decisions. Um, with Driving Loyalty, before I sold it, I had a behind for every seat, artists and bookkeepers and all these things, and it was you guys run businesses, this as on up months the cash flow is pretty good, but then if you have any type of losses, the cash flow suffers. I never felt like I could make good decisions with that business. So with Volley, we were very conservative. We added employees strictly based on monthly MRR growth. I vowed never to spend money until it just hurt too bad on anything that wasn't development or sales. And we have 51 employees now, so it's gone pretty well. But it hurt. I still do way too much admin myself, and I'm not really good at it. But it's been a lot of fun.
That's how you stay connected to your business.
Yeah, no question. Well, that was the other thing is it's amazing how at this level how much better your product market fit can be when you are that connected to your business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back when I had Driving Loyalty, I think I owned 10 pizza places at that point, and it was really easy on every bad day with Driving Loyalty to run out to the stores and invent some reason to go there. This is all I do. I sold everything for Volley. I also had a restaurant reporting software company that I sold, and this is about all I can do to keep my arms around this.
So what is Volley?
Yeah, it is a communication software for dealers, multi-channel software. Basically, we built a data matcher for an automotive data matcher, and we built a contact center solution on top of it. So we load the customers in there. We've loaded 4.5 billion human beings into Volley, and then we dedupe them. We've deduped them down to about 250 million humans. Then the dealers use Volley's campaign engine to put a work plan in place for their sales or service BDC, and then they call, email, and SMS them out of Volley. So it's an all-in-one solution, and we were able to punch much higher as we launched because we didn't have any revenue pressures. We could go quite a bit and get the data matcher right, which is really a lot of the hard part of this. There's a lot of ways to call a customer in a dealership. So, but can you look through the data and then serve up the next most important person in a third of a second? We've been able to scale pretty good at that.
One of the things that blew me away on that data matcher when Frickin' Tech started working with a call center that utilizes your software, we had a client, a mutual client, who was getting about 3,000 leads a month, and they would get deduped down to somewhere in the 1,600 to 1,800 territory every month. So
Wow.
so we could charge the dealer accurately because we were selling the BDC solution by the lead. So the dealer was seeing, hey, I got 3,000 leads, thinking he's going to get charged for 3,000 leads, but was only getting charged for 1,600 to 1,800 month in and month out. Was thrilled.
Yeah, it seems such a simple thing to say, oh, gee, this CRM or this DMS has terrible data, or they should be able to match up Jeff, and they should know that Jeff's vehicles, what he sold and what he hasn't. But we're all in the business. We know how hard it is. We know that with CDK, for example, that it's really easy to open a new RO without looking up the customer. They don't look at leases like trade-ins. Those things create duplicates. We are very conservative in our matching, but they were on our fourth version of our matcher as more data sources get in, as we find places to get fool the customer or fool our matcher with different ways data comes in. It's really hard, and dealers really, it's such an easy concept that they just think everyone does it, and it's a lot of work.
Why is this so difficult? It seems something to be pretty pretty basic, easy, but yet, at least most of the software tools I've used, they sort of struggle with it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to put rules in place for how you're going to match data. Do you need at least 3 data points? You can never match just on VIN because you might have 6 people with the same VIN in your database. If so what are your rules for matching? What about things like dnh@a.com for email addresses? How do you validate and invalidate emails? We have some variation of around 20 million at a.com email addresses in Volley. And then you take the legacy software. So you have, CDK, we recently audited 200 we're sitting on, between the dealers we work with directly and the vendors, maybe 1,000 CDK databases. We took 200 of them, 39% were duplicates in there, just for the reasons I spoke about. And it's not new software, right? You've got to mash that together with many other different DMSs. It's all entered by hand. Dealers in Volley also upload lists from OEMs. Well, the same people are on it every month. Some of them sold their vehicle. You've got to match that with data keyed in by hand that went in the DMS. It's just complicated. Seems easy,
Yeah.
complicated.
You also have static versus fuzzy kind of search methods, Jeff. So
Yeah,
a lot of CRMs just use the very technical one for one. It has to match exactly. I said static, I meant exact search. So everything has to be exact for it to match. It could be one
yeah.
field that matches, but yeah.
Yeah, we knew we need multiple data points. And then we also put a confidence score to it, and like the vendors who use us can decide how they want to treat some of that data. It's kind of funny. This is the most I've talked about it in forever. You guys have kind of picked this scab, and it's fun to talk about it because we're proud of what we do. But we used to make a big deal of our sales pitch through it, and our prospects would say, "Oh, that's no big deal. Our CRM does it, or our DMS dupes," and so we realized it was a loser. In an age of CDPs, which we could be a pretty good CDP, we never stress it. But it's fundamental to making sure that our customers can, save and dial next, or, enroll the people in the right campaigns at the right time and know more than you want them to. So it's fundamental to what we do, but not core to how we sell.
Gotcha.
Well,
You
you
you had
mentioned
referenced selling to vendors, but from what I gathered, now you're selling straight to dealerships, correct?
Yeah, we always intended this to be dealer BDC software. We did not know how we were going to go to market. Were we going to do it with resellers or white label? Um, we had a couple of direct to dealer through vendor sales in right before COVID, and we quickly realized it was really complicated. We wouldn't have had good product market fit because they had slightly different priorities, which is understandable. They got to run their business, and they wouldn't love our customers like we would. So we decided to grow direct to dealer when COVID hit. Kind of delayed it. We put our first vendor on, or our first dealer on in March of 2021. We still have like 30 automotive call centers that use us and a handful of other vendors. We don't actively sell them any longer, though. We might take them depending on the fit. And we love the vendors. I mean, it's been great. We've met many awesome people like Alex, but um, having good product market fit is essential. We do site visits to our customers every month. I go every month to multiple stores. So does Peter, our CTO. Multiple people on it, and it's really hard to have good product market fit with all the products and other vendors you've got to work with and integrate with, and and if we had vendors, they would have different programming priorities. So we've got to have someone who what we're working on will benefit their business. So we don't take everyone anymore, but we don't not want to take them. It's just how we just would feel bad if we couldn't do a good job for them. You know,
Get to be selective. Nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
well, we do have a comment from somebody who is in the market currently for a software like yours, Scott. I mentioned him earlier to you before the show started. That's Ryan Everson, and he's wondering if you're resolving identities through a waterfall logic or with something like TransUnion.
Um, you know, I'm not the technical guy, so yeah, gosh dang it, I just hate the fact that the first question that came up uh, was one I'm going to do a bad job of on it. But we're resolving the data within the dealer's database, um, and we're not combining or bringing in outside data sources to confirm it, whether it's TransUnion or LexisNexis or Polk or whatever. Um, we don't obviously combine data with one dealer from another, though it does make our matcher smarter in the background. But we do a really good job of matching what with what is known.
Hmm.
So
I would
you
think
were talking
tying
about
in.
CRMs earlier.
Hmm.
Sorry, Jeff, I'm jumping on you now. But
Right.
you mentioned that when you're selling Volley to dealers, they will say, "Hey, you know what? Our CRMs match this." You know, so talking about matching logic wasn't that important anymore in your sales pitch. But overall, if you have a CRM and you can write processes to the CRM that the BDC or anybody can follow, what's the point of having Volley?
Um, well, I mean, so let's separate out sales and service. But um, By the way, I'm out of frame now, Alex. So I don't know what I've done to fidget around here. I apologize for that. But um, so first of all, with service, uh, they are they are working off of desk phones and spreadsheets. And if you want to answer the phone in service, you need to wait around for the phone to ring. The problem is your agents are going to be about 40% efficient. If you want to grow your business, you want to pay offense, you want them, making phone calls when they're not on inbound calls. So our software really helps them do that and manage it. Um, in sales, the CRM is kind of a productivity killer. We are not a CRM. There, many good ones in automotive, and we're not trying to replace them. What we're trying to do is make the agents more efficient. So your typical agent, and by the way, I mainly talk phone calls. We send Volie, our dealers do about 20 million phone calls a month in Volie right now. We send about that many emails and SMSs as well. But a lot of what happens with those are automatic. So, the phones are really where we keep the agents busy, and we help them be efficient. So your typical agent, if you like in service, your typical agent will do, 60 to 80 inbound, outbound handles a day, with your desk phones. With Volley, they're going to take 60 or 70 inbound calls and make 150 outbound attempts. If you're doing outbound only, you can make about 350 attempts in a day because we help you quickly get between uh, uh, the calls where the people don't answer. And I can walk through some of the math on that. On sales, think of all the time after a person puts in what they did by hand that isn't tracked. Um, Once again, quickly get to the customers who you can engage with. Don't rush any of those phone calls, but quickly get to the people who you can engage with. Dealers sign up with Volley for one of three reasons. Number one, uh, um, you know, they want to save a little labor and make their agents more efficient. Number two, they want to feel like they're playing offense and they want to grow some revenue. Like in service, they want to stop the decline of transactions. But really, just as importantly, a lot of people sign up just because they want to know what's happening in their BDC. Were the calls made that we wanted? Were they successful calls? Um, 100% of every minute of every agent's day is tracked. So are they efficient? An average agent for service costs about 25 bucks an hour for sales BDC, or $4,350 a month. For sales, it's more than that. How efficient are they? How successful are they? So, you know, that was a
You're
that was a
you're
long
taking me
answer.
back. No, 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 it's a good one though. But you're taking me back to years prior to Volley existing, and Ryan had another comment that hit on this as well. But it, I ran a call center for Checkered Flag, and one of my biggest peeves was the time that my BDRs, or the agents, would sit there and like just use the mouse and scroll up and down in the CRM's history and twirl the phone cord around their fingers and that kind of stuff without actually just picking up the phone and calling. It was like they were trying to make this whole mental picture of who this customer was before they ever talked to him. And I always wanted to be like, can I put a blinder on him? You don't need that. You got a customer name, you've got a phone number, you've got a car. Just call and talk. There's a script here. You can run with that. But you don't need to spend 5 minutes before you pick up the phone. It's a complete waste of time.
Yeah, I was just in a dealership. It's a large dealer group, and they uh, um, they use this for service BDC, but their sales BDC, their standard is 40, 40, 40. 40 call attempts, 40 emails, 40 SMSs. That's a lot of idle time.
Yeah. And Ryan was also saying that CRM follow up is usually driven by lead status, where softwares like Volley focus more on the disposition outcomes.
Yeah, Ryan knows the business, no question.
He's a smart dude. Yep. So you know, we were talking before, not on the show, but about blended dialing. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so typically without Volley, if if and now I'm going to specifically talk about service uh, because sales, they don't get as many inbound calls. But if you want to get your phones answered in service, and you've got a VoIP or a desk phone system, you need a ring all, and you need to have people wait around for the phones to ring. And maybe you'll maybe after a certain amount of time, you will forward it to somewhere else in the dealership, who more than likely, based on call review and Car Wars studies, will connect about 60% of the time. Getting to outbound to grow your business usually doesn't happen. It definitely doesn't happen on a Monday, where 25% more attempts come in, and inbound calls come in on Monday than on Tuesday, and 41% more on Monday than on Friday. But with Volley, when they're not on an inbound call, and we place the call with an agent so that someone's responsible for it. When they're not an inbound call, it serves up the next most important outbound call that you want made, and they're always making outbound calls, which is important to keeping your retention steady, growing your business. And if you think about it, an inbound call. So I just recently looked at 25 million calls. The average inbound call was 4 minutes and 4 seconds that had an appointment. The average outbound appointment was about 2 minutes and 40 seconds, about 2 minutes and 10 seconds if it was a state inspection. We've got a lot of stores like in Pennsylvania and such. And if you do a like a 4 attempt service retention campaign, your blended answer rate's about 35%. So that means 65 out of 100 attempts don't end up in someone speaking with someone. So it's counterintuitive to say, well, geez, if you send it to one person and I don't have a ring all, how do I make sure the phones get answered? Well, because your agents, if you have 5 agents, 3 to 4 of them every call aren't connecting with someone. So they're picking up that inbound call if they come in every 18 seconds. So then what you can do is you can tie the inbound call to a group drop rate. You can automatically call them back, and those stats are really interesting. And then you get outbound calls, and you grow your business. So the reason why you want to do blended is so that you can keep them busy 50 minutes an hour, so that they can take the inbound calls and you can measure them, and they can all make 150 outbound attempts a day.
Yeah, we were not getting 150 outbound attempts a day. Maybe in the
You've
service
got
side, or
yeah, I mean, you have to ride someone like a rented mule with a desk phone. It's just a lot of work, and you're working off spreadsheets and checking off lists, and it's I don't blame them. It's hard work, and being a BDC agent's hard work anyway, right? I mean, everyone in the dealership's their boss. The customers, the service advisors, I mean, everyone's their boss, right, Jeff? You know that. So
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Yep.
they're quite often the lowest paid people in the dealership. And, thankfully, a lot of the good dealers we work with use those as promotions. And if you think about either through the BDCs or through online, I mean, what percentage of your business comes through those two channels now? It's most of it. So
Well, yeah.
they're important people in the dealership.
especially in slow months where you need to make a lot of outbound calls, try and stir something up with customers who aren't walking in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we see Our most successful dealers first start with the people who are due for service. You know, a lot of service managers, they say, I want to get the people back in who haven't been in for 18 months. But those people, the answer rate is about 10%, and the conversion rate is very low. You should always start with the people who are due for service because they don't think of you as much as you think of them. And guaranteed, every single outbound appointment that's made, either they weren't coming in, and you can't tell me some of them weren't because your retention rate isn't 100%, or they weren't coming in as fast. And just do the math. If you do nothing else but speed up your database by a month because you've got people to come in earlier than, gee, you know, my warning light came on, I'm going to get to it in 6 weeks. In a couple of years, you've got an extra month of service revenue. We literally have our first dealer group that was on in their first year, their second year, they got used to really pacing. Their third year, they were really humming. And their fourth year, they had about the same effort metrics in Volley, but unbelievably, their transactions were up about 20%. It's because they got people on a regular schedule. So,
Very
It's
important.
amazing what consistency does.
well, it's
Yep.
just like you guys doing this show for 7 years. You know, it's why you have an audience because you've been consistent, and it's hard. I mean,
But
I shouldn't have sworn there. Shoot, it's why I've been
it's only
chronicling that.
adults watching.
Yeah, it's why the lack of consistency. Why I've been uh, just slightly overweight my whole adult life is a lack of consistency. So,
Because
I
pizzas
hear you.
taste good, Scott.
oh yeah, yeah. I have no
So what?
willpower.
Go back to that stat again with the outbound stats, and are there any additional stats you could add on top of that that maybe
Yes,
most
juicy
dealerships aren't
woods.
aware of?
Yeah. So first of all, let's back up and say, um, a lot of people listening, they might say, well, geez, I'm short on techs. I'm out 3 weeks. Uh, I don't even want to do outbound calls. We had an extremely large dealer in Las Vegas who told us that, and then they signed up with Volley. They had 850 drop calls in the week. In a month, they were like, "Well, geez, you know, we're getting way less inbound calls." Well, people weren't calling back over and over and over. They were helping them on inbound. But um, when you're talking out, so the dealers who have that worry that they can't get to people fast enough, um, if you do an outbound call, you have a script. You are leading the customer through the outcome you want. If they do an inbound call, um, they usually have a problem. They want to come in the next morning at 8 a.m. and they want a loaner car. So when you focus on outbound, you've got control of the conversation. So if you look at we make sure the carriers don't label your calls as spam. So when I talk about a 35% answer rate on uh, um, on a 4 attempt service campaign, that means that if you make it through all 4 attempts, you've got a blended answer rate of 35%, which means that you'll speak with about 7 out of 10 people that you've enrolled in a if they're due for service. Good BDCs will will schedule an appointment for service for 30% of the people they speak with. So 100 dials, 9 to 10 service appointments on service retention. Our average is a little over 7 appointments per 100 dials. And of course, that means we've got a few below 7, but that's kind of the math of outbound. It's it's kind of, I can't remember which one of you guys said it, but it's kind of like um, uh, it was you, Alex, with talking about your BDC. Just make more calls. The most activity usually wins if thoughtful activity. You can't slam through these calls, but uh, get through your list and help people. They all need help.
Well, Bill Vaughn says nailed it, and then he's got a question for you. So he wants to know if there's a best time of day to make outbound calls.
Yeah, we recently looked at this with our 25 million calls, and um, man, I don't want Bill to get mad at me. Uh, I would not tell the your agents that they should ever stop making outbound calls. The answer rate was best in the morning. The answer rate was worse after 5 o'clock, believe it or not, but it was about 5 points worse from the best time to and the 1 to 5 period was in the middle. The main thing, the main thing every BDC agent, every BDC should focus on is having their agents on the phone 50 minutes an hour and making thoughtful phone calls. If you don't have Volley, you should still benchmark inbound calls that you take along with outbound attempts. If you do nothing but just do that and monitor them being on the phone 50 minutes an hour, you'll grow your business. You'll do better with Volley, but just a couple metrics like that, you'll do better.
So you said there's a 5 point difference, but it's
Yeah,
not
it's not.
for
I mean,
you
it
to focus.
was yeah, it was like
Is it like
21 to 6% was the range,
I
and
was
that
going
was
to
across
ask?
all our, including all these calls that get made of someone who hasn't been in for 14 months. So that was the blended average answer rate for all of them.
Bill says, "Love the answer. Thank you."
Well, I appreciate that, Bill. I want you guys to like me, and I don't want to be pejorative with any of these questions. So those are just the numbers.
I got to tell you, I stole something from you. I haven't stolen it yet, but I'm going to. How's that? But I
Okay.
got to quote you. You said they don't think of you as much as you think of them when it comes to dealers and
Mhm.
customers. I can't wait to use that.
Yeah, I mean, we're all, I mean, we're human beings, right? So we're a little self-centered. We know the world doesn't evolve around us, but we want it to. So every marketing campaign we have, every coupon we run, if we're a dealer, every digital ad we run, we're like, the people are going to come in, but they got their own stuff to worry about. You know, um, like back to service a bit. So when you talk about service, a lot of dealers or a lot of agents, they feel like, geez, I'm interrupting people. I'm nervous about doing it. It's a righteous job. People, I mean, think of all the businesses you deal with. When do you feel like you get good service? People want service. And with service in particular, it's a guaranteed transaction. It's just not necessarily with you. So don't assume they're going to come in and have the attitude that you're providing a good service for your customers because you are. They need it. Make it easy for them. And if they tell you no, then nicely dig a little bit because they might just be on vacation or they might have something they can't think about it that day. Um, on those 25 million calls, we looked at there was like 970,000 of these people that the dealers agents marked the customers uh, not interested, um, and 28% of them came in within 120 days. They all need service. Um,
Yep. It's There was a good comment here. Ryan's full of them today. He usually is. But um, used to subscribe. I don't mean used to. I used to say this a lot, but I still subscribe to the notion that you need 3 impressions to get a conversion. Just a good marketing term. And so, same with however you touch somebody. It could be they're seeing your billboard, they're seeing your license plate bracket on the back of a car, the sticker on the back of a car you sold, the phone call, the outbound call you're making, the text that's going out, the email that's going out, the piece of mail you sent them. You got to hit somebody 3 times before you can actually get them to register that you are trying to get their attention.
yeah, don't get me wrong. Uh, we send just as many emails and SMSs as phone calls, um, and 40% of all. I guess I'll get to that, but 40% of all outbound appointments made were people calling you back, and nearly all of those in Volley, they automatically send an email or an SMS along with the phone call. Um, just though, think of email and SMS. a lot of what happens with email and SMS in any platform happens automatically. You want your agents on the phone 50 minutes an hour. So if uh, I love it that and the phones are old fashioned. People, it's great to say no one answers the phones. Um, I can tell you our delivery rate on SMSs is nearly 100%, but people convert way better on phones. We have one of the vendors we have sends millions of SMSs for safety recalls. So maybe uh, the most important message you're going to get is, "Hey, if I don't get this fixed, my car's going to blow up." And um, their conversion rate, their answer rate is about 18%, and that's all responses. So it's less than 18% because some of those are back and forth. If you call people on a 4 attempt service retention campaign, you can speak with 7 out of 10 with a 35% blended conversion rate. So you should absolutely be email and SMSing, but your agents can be on the phone. Don't let them. They're not Shakespeare. They don't need to spend 20 minutes responding to the email. A lot of that stuff happens automatically, especially in the age of AI.
You're making me think of Dealer Refresh itself here. So we take sponsorship for Dealer Refresh, keep the lights on, and pay for broadcasting software like this and things of that nature. And we have never been able to convert a sponsor without getting on a video call. So
Yeah.
no matter how much we put together in materials and make it easy to sign like a DocuSign agreement or anything along those lines, it has never happened without a Zoom call.
Well, I mean, business is
True.
about trust. I mean, heck, your marriage is about trust. Everything you do in your life is about trust. And people work hard for their money, so they want to make sure that they get a good ROI on it.
Well, we got another question here. So, what's the ideal follow-up frequency and duration for a new sales lead?
Um, Candidly, I'm not an expert in that. I do know the math of it though. So our typical sales BDC, and I do want to also say when we started selling direct to dealer, we work with about 840 dealers in the US. So when we started going direct to dealer in 2021, there were no cars. The dealers were selling everything they had. So we focused on service BDC. And most of our customers use us for service BDC. We have about 25% of those people who use us for sales BDC. So I usually talk about service more because that's what by necessity, that's what we had to focus on at the start. With sales leads, most of the customers do fairly something like 3 attempts the first day, 3 attempts the second, two the third, two the fourth, and then they'll spread it out after that. I can tell you 3322, that's the 10th attempt. Your answer rate is about 7% on that 10th attempt, and then it goes down from there. Most of the dealers then, they spread out the attempts and they put the automatic sequence back in from there. I would never miss those first 4 days, and I would be very thoughtful in how I left voicemails and such. Now the hard part is I've got a friend who gets a lot of registration data, and I can tell that a lot of customers buy cars a lot closer to 40 days than one when they do a lead, but they don't answer the phones after 10 attempts. The funny thing is, we looked at millions of sales attempts, and we went out to something like 60 attempts that someone did over a 90-day period. If they use it to put that sequence in Volley, no one answered on attempt 42 of the. I mean, it's just dumb luck, But
So, first 4 days are critical. That's the big takeaway.
definitely, and to be thoughtful, and well, I mean, well, everyone listening to this knows that a lot of it's just blocking and tackling. The important part of Volley is to make sure that the people that you're paying good money for are efficient doing it. But especially up until this point, um, people sell cars. They customers buy from people they trust, and you know, do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, and you'll do well.
It's hard to believe we still have to talk about that.
Well, because it's hard
Well,
work. I mean, go back to you guys. I mean, 7 years doing this show. Half the time you're like, man, Scott looks really boring. I don't want to do this call this week. And it's a grind, but it's a grind for all of us. Um, in the case of our Volley salespeople, they're a wild success if they can make 3 sales a month. So they have, um, you know, how many thousands of emails, calls, and attempts to get 3 yeses? Same thing with the dealers. No real different. We looking at some of the data. 3% of all people who are due for service have an active sales lead. Um, these numbers like 3% of your database is in market at any time, and 7% will be open to it. That's a lot of no's. It's a lot of people who need good pick-me-ups to make the next friendly phone call.
oh, here comes another one from Ryan. You can definitely tell he's in the market right now. So when a BDC signs up for your service, do they have to recalibrate their pay plans due to efficiency gains?
I think that's really, really up to you. Usually with Volley, I would like to say that allows you to be more like Nick Saban than your typical college coach who gets fired after a year. If you hear Nick Saban, and I always was never an Alabama fan, I don't want to offend any of the listeners, but if you listen to him, he always focused on the next play, the next series. He always was process, process, process. So where if you just are doing it off checklists and spreadsheets and and manual entries, all you can focus on is outcomes. So the pay plans usually change because there's some combination of process gains, the behavior that you want to see, plus outcomes. In addition, you're going to need less people, so you've got to decide who you have and how you're going to compensate them. You know the budgets of what you can pay in your dealership. So we have all of them have all sorts of different pay plans. We spend a lot of time talking about pay plans.
I bet. What about other softwares that Volley does?
Well, I mean, so the main thing we sell is Volley. If you've ever received a call that says, and it says potential spam on it, or if you didn't receive it because you didn't know it because it says potential fraud, it was blocked outright without delivering it to you. That is driven by the government. They had something called the Trace Act, and they put, and then in like 2021, there was a Supreme Court case where it really relaxed the robodialing laws, and Congress went to the carriers and said, geez, if you're wondering why it's getting worse, they're like, well, the laws are relaxed, but you got to protect the consumer. So we want you to monitor these calls and label them. If you notice that they say potential spam, because they don't know, and about 30% of business calls are labeled as potential spam, which is unfair to dealers because as defined, dealers are not making unwanted calls. They're just not. They should 100% should be passed through. So we've got a product called Dealer Identity that we bundle in with every Volley customer, but we sell it separately too. We have somewhere around 500 dealers that buy it separately, and we verify their identity with the carriers. We submit their 10-digit phone numbers, their click to call, their agents or their salespeople numbers, their desk phones, and we pass those calls and make sure they're delivered. It's very inexpensive to do it. We also have a AI product called Pulse that we just rolled out, if you've ever listened to a phone call and you get to about the third one because you want to improve your agents, you're going to blow your brains out. It's so hard listening to phone calls. So this is AI, conversational intelligence, that does 100% of the calls, and it's also very, very affordable. We have a big roadmap, um, in regards to AI as well. But those are just a
Okay.
couple of them. We have a sales product called Express that will be rolling out our first customer in that will really do some neat things with the BDC at the end of this quarter as well. We focus 100% on communication, so we're not trying to be a CRM. We're not trying to be a service scheduler, or um, we focus on communication and making the people more efficient with data.
Well, going back to the beginning of the show, you were talking about the customer match. Man, I think back to my dealer days and also to what I've seen some of your software produce. And like, man, that would be such a great service by itself. Just let me dedupe my DMS data. Let me dedupe my CRM data.
Um, we've done it for a few dealers and we just did it for them and sent it back to them. Um, Business is really hard, right? And, if you go back to they don't think of you as much as you think of them part, it's hard for us to be in 10 different businesses. We could advertise to be a CDP, but then what message do we have in the marketplace? So we focus 100% on communication. We do have a DMS that uses us for data matching, and we have a handful of other vendors, but we don't sell it any longer because, frankly, we're just not good enough at selling to sell many different things. So we actually had a large dealer group that called us about this, and we told them no because they didn't want to use Volley. They just wanted us to do data matching for them, but we don't do it anymore because then we wouldn't be programming on how to be better at communicating or helping the dealer communicate with their customers. All our focus on with our 20 some developers is on communication.
Sounds like you took some notes from Steve Jobs.
Um, Product market fit is really hard. Uh, we have to improve every month there. It's hard if you're doing 10 different things. Um, with my old company that I sold to Team Velocity, I never felt like we did a good enough job. We were just kind of really good, and um, we bootstrapped this to whatever level of success we have now, and I don't feel like we've got the luxury to be at the buffet of doing everything and getting fat when doing nothing. Everything half-assed. So I did it again to you on the show. I'm glad they're all adults, but um, so it's lessons by pain. It isn't by genius. It's been, what dumb thing did I do in the past, and what am I not going to repeat? Still learn them.
Yeah,
Never
well,
stops.
that's right. Well, we've got another question from Ryan. So, have you run any
So
tests on answer rates when using branded caller ID?
yeah, right now I feel like that's really expensive. You can buy branded calling, by the way. You can go to a company called Numerical, or you can go to TransUnion. Those are pretty much the two places you could buy them, and we could go through Numerical to sell those to our dealers. Um, um, it's pretty expensive. Um, I,
What
in
is?
digging down, well, it could be 6, 7 cents an attempt. Uh,
So they
Pretty
charge
easy.
by the call.
Yeah. And
Uh,
some it'll be fractions of a penny a call. Uh, what we've found, or what we've been told, is that the answer rates aren't significantly higher, except for unless it's medical. Um,
mm,
uh, the feedback we've gotten now, if if you said, well, Scott, what if it was a web lead compared to service retention? I just don't know any of that. At the high level, I didn't feel like we could be a good enough value. And I love Volley because people use it every day and we know we're helping people. I wasn't certain we could do it with brand calling. So when someone wants it, we help them get it elsewhere because I don't want to bill them. I sweat every bill I send. So
Yeah.
um, I think it'll get much better. Um, we also register every dealer with CNAM, which is if you guys are all old enough to remember desk phones and the caller ID on the phone. That was because of the CNAM database. Uh, it's not as used as much with wireless carriers, but maybe 20% of the calls will come through because of the CNAM. It depends on the carrier, and it depends on how if the person's registering it and such.
Hmm.
Never thought about that before because I've got two different apps that I use for phones. I got a Zoom phone, I got a Umail phone, and normally the calls will come through to my cell phone, and that'll just be a pure number. And then
Mhm.
once it flips over and the call's ringing through Zoom, for example, now Zoom shows the caller ID. So
Yeah, yeah.
interesting.
And if I could tell you all the rules, I can't. It's complicated. The carriers don't share this stuff with you either. But just anecdotally, I'm guessing it's about 20%.
Yeah.
That was a total guess, by the way.
Okay. We won't hold you to it.
Yeah.
So Scott, we're in the last 2 minutes here.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
gone fast.
Any other stats that stick out that would
Um, so whether you're doing volley or not, it's important to make the people happy who are trying to do business with you. And these are service stats, but we have, like I said, 20 million calls a month. Probably 19 million of them are service calls, maybe 18 million actually. But um, so first of all, call back every customer who hangs up. That's whether, we call them agent drops and customer drops. If you do that, 58% of the people answer, 59% will schedule an appointment. So if you do nothing else, call people back who hang up on you because they need help. A large percent of them won't call back again. Secondly, in Volley, we know which calls are appointable or not, so we help them measure the agents by their conversion rates. And what's the difference on an inbound conversion? Because you can think, well, they're calling for an appointment. Why would it be any different? Well, it is different because it's the difference between kind of maybe shooting the customer or I got you. I'm going to help you, and you can up the inbound conversion rate. So somehow, if even if you don't have Volley, make stack check marks on what calls are appointable, and train your agents, all your agents to look like your best one. If you train your agents on that, and your service schedule is set up right, and you take out status checks, top dealerships are converting on 95% of their appointable inbound calls. So those are just a few things. Going back, the easiest thing you can do is benchmark your agents by outbound attempts and inbound calls they receive. You don't need Volley for that. You can do that tomorrow.
Yeah, they're logging their calls in the CRM.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough with humans, right? Um, it's hard to log failure too. I don't even blame anyone if they don't log things correctly. Failure is depressing. So
Sure.
I get what you're saying.
Well,
How do
Scott,
you improve that?
if anyone's interested in Volley, where do they go?
they can go to volley.com. There's websites there. Anyone can call me. Uh, my email scott@volley.com. My phone number is 319-240-2743. I answer my phone every time. But the website's easy too. So we also have a ton of videos on YouTube. A lot of good, interesting information that you can use to help your business.
Excellent.
Well, thank you, Scott.
This
This
was
has
fun.
been quite an education.
This was fun. You
Yeah.
you guys, I feel like I've talked the whole hour, but this was really fun. Thank you for having me.
That's the
Hey,
point.
mission achieved.
No,
All
definitely
right.
appreciate your time today.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.